You feel this nervousness on the phone there?
Sir, I've been trying to make an urgent phone call up there.
Well, I don't think it's something I want to do on an overseas phone.
You gotta make some phone calls. Hang up the phone. Prank caller. Prank caller.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to Packernet After Dark. This is the call-in show of the Packernet Podcast Network. If you'd like to call in, if you'd like to participate in the show, please feel free to do so. The phone number here is 608-501-0718. New callers go directly to the front of the line. We do not have any new callers, but we got Garrett. What's going on, Garrett?
Hey, Ryan, it's Garrett from Southern Illinois.
What's up?
It's Monday after the Super Bowl, and football is over. I can't say that I saw that coming. Philadelphia took them to the woodshed, man.
Yeah.
That was just embarrassing. Mahomes didn't look like he had any time to throw the ball, and Philadelphia's D-line just completely dominated that game, which I feel like that just propels all the more awareness of every team looking at what defensive tackles are in this draft and what offensive linemen are in this draft, because that definitely was a game that was won in the trenches for sure. I have to say that it hurt just a little bit more watching Cooper DeJean get that interception and run it back for a touchdown on his birthday. Man, I sure would have liked to seen Green Bay with that guy. That one hurts a little bit. Anyways, I wanted to talk about a scenario in regards to what guys are already talking about, and that's, the NFC North definitely has teams that are wanting to improve their defensive end position. I mean, every team legitimately is looking for one. And then just with all those guys that are out there, they're available. All those guys that are talking about being traded, I think it's inevitable. We've got to prepare ourselves that Detroit, Chicago, and even Minnesota may be looking to make a splash in free agency to get somebody. And I know one guy had called in and proposed to use, do you give up all the draft capital to get Myles Garrett just so that Detroit doesn't get him? But, it's just one of those things. It's like we've got to prepare ourselves for that and hope for the best. But I just wanted to throw out a question to you in regards to the history of Green Bay playing against Cleveland and how well did our offensive line hold up to Myles Garrett. And if you could go back and look at his grades and how well he did against us in the past, 4 or 5 seasons, I'd just be curious to see how well we held up against them. Because I know that Cleveland did play at Green Bay when Baker Mayfield was playing for them. So I know there's that game in recent history that we could look at. So other than that, I can't really recall any. But I'm just curious to see how well he did against us. And
Well, the last time we played the Cleveland Browns was 2021. The Packers won that game 24-22. Myles Garrett had 3 pressures and 0 sacks, 71.9 PFF grade. Interestingly enough, that was his second worst game of the season, was a 72 PFF grade with 3 pressures on 32 attempts. Otherwise, the last time we played them was 2017. He did play in that game. That was his rookie year. That was his 3rd worst game of that season. Looked like he missed a bunch of time. But again, he had 3 pressures, no sacks, and that was on 40 attempts. So he did not have his best games in the world against the Green Bay Packers. 6 total pressures and 0 sacks in 2 games. Certainly not characteristic of how his career has been. But, I wouldn't put too much weight in the 2 times we saw Myles Garrett.
Ryan, I wanted to kind of address something that I think Clayton brought up, or another podcast did maybe last week, talking about previous first-round draft picks that Green Bay had made prior to the 2010 season where they won the Super Bowl. So they drafted like in the top 10 and got A.J. Hawk. Then they got Rodgers. Then they picked pretty high again the next draft and got B.J. Raji. Then the next year they moved up to get Clay Matthews. So we're kind of trending the same way if you think about it. You know, they moved up to get Love. Then they got, you know, first-round picks with Quay Walker, who I would say, I don't know, he definitely could trend better on defense to where he could be kind of like an A.J. Hawk where he's reliable for a long period of time. But now we're in that position where we could draft our B.J. Raji and in our free agency get our defensive end. I think those are the key parts I think that we're really missing to get us to that next level. So kind of interesting how history kind of has a little bit of similarities to it, but if we can just hit on these next draft picks this season and find those key free agent guys, I think it definitely can take us to the next level because we're close. We're so close. I'm out.
That would actually be kind of cool. I hadn't super considered that. Not that I've run through a ton of scenarios, but we're already kind of trending in the direction of I would be surprised if they don't address edge in free agency. And if they do, then it would be kind of unlikely if they address edge, at least early in the draft, like the first round. They could, absolutely. They did that, you know, when it was Za'Darius and Preston and then Rashawn, right? But I still would be a little surprised. Either way, it's kind of interesting to think, what if they went and got an edge? Now you're looking at it, you're going, okay, Rashawn has a little bit of a resurgence. He was already kind of surging toward the end a little bit. But now he's basically your number 2, which is a crazy position to have Rashawn. And then we go out and get a defensive tackle. And there are some options. Now, Mason Graham out of Michigan is presumed to be a top 5 lock, top 10, presumably top 5 defensive tackle. But there's a lot of guys in that next range from, let's see, so 32-64. You got roughly Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon, Tyleik Williams, Deion Walker, TJ Sanders, Alfred Collins are kind of in that late first through the second round. If you say, you know, that's some of these are kind of a reach, you know, as far as first round picks, you still got Walter Nolan, Kenneth Grant, Derek Harmon for sure. Tyleik Williams and Deion Walker are kind of that, you know, mid-second round that people would call a reach, but within the Packers' wheelhouse. So you're still talking 5 defensive tackles that, you know, now you're looking at it and you're going, dude, we got Rashawn, we got, let's say, you know, whatever, some free agent or some trade for an edge rusher. So now we got 2 edge rushers and we got this dude, which I think the easy option, unless they wanted to go big boy up front, which there's a lot of options for that, is Derek Harmon. Walter Nolan's not a big dude, but as we talked about before, real solid in run defense. The pass rush production wasn't quite there. Talked about, it'll actually be on tomorrow. We talk about some different stuff. But the thing with Walter Nolan is it's kind of seen as a project, quote unquote, which not anybody, no Packer fan wants to hear that word ever again. But as far as the pass rush, it's a work in progress. You got like Grant, I think Grant Williams and Walker are like 340-pound dudes that lack the pass rush production but are kind of big, you know, if you want that. Derek Harmon stands out as just out of Oregon, the defensive tackle that is a freaking wrecker. 6'5", 310, that's lean for a defensive tackle at 6'5". Dude had only 5 sacks. So if you're just, you know, a lot of people just are sack watchers. They'll look at that and say he had no production. But 55 pressures on 347 attempts is 16%. So he was not lacking in the ability to disrupt the quarterback. Get him down on his back, fine. But add to that, he was a really good run defender. I would say if you're looking for a stout pass rusher on the interior, Derek Harmon is probably your dude if you're looking first round.
Hey, Ryan. I wanted to ask you a hypothetical because I'm sure this is going to be a little bit of a conversation when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. It looks like he will not be playing again in New York, and now he will enter the darkness and come back out and kind of like Punxsutawney Phil, we're awaiting a decision. Is he going to play or is he going to retire? And I just wanted to throw out there hypotheticals of where you think he might land and why, and is there any chance that he would land with that team? And I think there are a few. One, the scenario that plays out there everybody's talking about is going to Minnesota. We'll have to wait and see if they re-sign Darnold or let him go. And if they let him go, is there a chance that Rodgers goes back and plays following Favre's footsteps once again in Minnesota? Option 2, Tennessee Titans. We all know he has a home in Tennessee, and that was a rumored team that he could be possibly going to the last time. So there's that one. We know that he always wanted to go back and play in San Francisco, but kind of doubt seeing that scenario play out. But San Francisco hasn't signed Brock Purdy to his contract yet. Mm-hmm. So there is that. So I don't know. I just wonder if there was any other teams you thought that might be suitable for him to go play and why. I'm out.
The Rodgers thing is tricky. I'm on one hand, retirement makes the most sense just because I don't know that a lot of these are going to work out. I would say there's a scenario where he's going to realize he doesn't have a super big market. He's going to have to go somewhere. I can't imagine he wants to be in the scenario that he's in terms of, kind of just being like that Kirk Cousins cast off, like, whatever kind of a guy. It just doesn't feel right. There are scenarios, though. Pittsburgh is got the highest odds, and I talk about this a lot tomorrow, so I don't need to go super in depth, but Pittsburgh's got the best odds. I think it's going to be tough, though, because he's going to get the same lecture from Pittsburgh that he got, allegedly, from the Jets, where they said, look, you can come here, that's fine, but you will not be running things. I am running things. You will not be doing this. You will not be doing that. You will be here for training camp. And, whether or not they would say you can't go on McAfee, I don't know. That's a separate thing. But on top of that, now you have players, and the fan base is super anti-Rodgers. This has become a thing. You have players now saying, keep his old, in the retirement home. We don't want him. You've got, I think it was fake. I don't know. Maybe it was real. A billboard saying, we don't want Rodgers or something to that effect. So there's a whole campaign out there, and he's not going to want to do that. He's not going to want to go somewhere where he's not wanted and has no power and control and is being, The Raiders don't make any sense. He's going there for no reason. No chance of winning, in my opinion. San Francisco only makes, there's only one scenario where San Francisco makes sense. And that is where if the GM and head coach genuinely believe their heads are on the chopping block, which a lot of 49ers fans are getting to the point where they don't want them there anymore, which I think is crazy. But if that's true, and if they genuinely feel like we got one more year and if we screw this up, we're getting fired, the ownership would have to sign off on it. But if they believe that, maybe they could say, try to convince them it's not worth paying Brock Purdy. Let's just get Rodgers. We have all the pieces. We can win this thing with Aaron Rodgers. I'm sure of it. It's a long shot, though, because number one, I do think they're going to pay Brock Purdy for the long run. I don't know that would work out. Rodgers would love to play for the 49ers. It's still a tough thing because you've got a very strong-minded head coach. I don't know that he wants to deal with that kind of a thing. I mean, listen, the way the last few years have gone with Rodgers is a massive, just nothing but red flags. The way it ended in Green Bay with an organization like the Green Bay Packers that are highly respected. I don't care what you think. They are highly respected. basically saying, get this guy out of here. We will not play with him here anymore. We don't want him here. It's that big of a problem. Then he goes somewhere, has a very serious injury. The next year, it is a complete disaster. He again is not showing up for camp. The locker room is a disaster. It's a media frenzied joke. The organization is being mocked and ridiculed for getting Aaron Rodgers and what a disaster it was. And now you have to try to sell the idea that it's a good idea to bring Rodgers in. That is a tough sell. It's not that I can't see it. There's a chance, again, if the 49ers feel like, because it's a short window. He's not going to be here for a while. If he wins a Super Bowl, he's riding off into the sunset. He's gone. And even if he doesn't, he might just be like, all right, that was 1 year. That sucked. I'm leaving. So this is, we legitimately have a Super Bowl aspirations, and my job is on the line, and we don't have a quarterback. That's the criteria. Who fits that? Honestly, and I hate to say this, Minnesota might make the most sense. They don't have a quarterback. They would like to have a guy like Rodgers grooming J.J. McCarthy, because I think they honestly have similar skill sets, if I'm being honest. They love going out and getting these one-year rentals, like Sam Darnold, and if they can make Sam Darnold into that, what can you do with Aaron Rodgers? I don't know that they're that strong-headed that they would not allow Rodgers in there. And picture this, and I hate to do this to you, Aaron Rodgers, Davante Adams, Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson. I'm wary of the idea of Davante following Rodgers around like a little puppy dog, but that is one selling point that I think you would be willing to consider. Now, on the other hand, he has absolutely said, I will never go to Chicago. I don't know how strongly that applies to Minnesota or Detroit. But in terms of checking every single box, I think Minnesota makes the most sense as far as I can, thinking through all the different teams. That or retirement. All right, let's take a break. We got Mr. Steve in Alaska on the other side.
Well, hello, Mr. Slip. Steve up in Alaska. Long time no call.
Yeah.
Better check in eventually, otherwise you guys might think I got ate by a bear or something up here.
We do think that,
but,
yes.
Just been kind of hanging out. The end of the season was going the way that I kind of felt the end of the season was, so I didn't figure there was any reason to call in it. Put my 2 cents in that wasn't worth anything anyways, because everybody else was pretty much on the same page. Which, looking at the postseason, what we're looking into next year, I think everybody's pretty much on the same page there too. We need bodies on both sides of the trenches. Offense, defensive line needs help there. Safety, cornerbacks. You need to get the cornerbacks. We're good with safety, but we need to get some cornerbacks. We need to find somebody else as a wide receiver, because these guys are solid, but there's nobody there that I'm looking at and giving a 4 or 5 year extension to, and big money. Everybody's kind of, hey, we might give you another year or maybe 2, mid money. And that's the big thing of it. That's what we need. There's really only, the 3 spot, well, 4, both sides of trenches, corner and wide receiver. Those are the 4 areas that we need to get people. It's a have to look and see what they do. I don't have a problem with saying we bring in a bunch of bodies, because the more bodies you get, the more opportunities you get for somebody to do something well and turn into a real player. But I don't have a problem with the fact that since we have all these draft picks and all this money, that we make some moves and try to either move up draft-wise or go out and purchase players to bring them in. And either one of those things work. I will say I've been happy to listen to your show and hear you swinging towards the fact that we need to consider whether or not our offensive line can run block, because we have a running back who is fantastic with a mediocre run blocking line.
Yeah.
If we got a really good run blocking line, I know passing is the most important, but passing gets easier if teams have to spend more effort defensively to try to stop our run. That opens up the pass and makes it much simpler to do. Super Bowl. I'm happy the way it happened. I was enjoying it. I had people talking about how it was boring Super Bowl because the score was what it was. But I was super happy with it.
Yep.
Because unlike anybody else I heard talking about, the three-peat thing matters to me. We're the three-peat team. Yeah. We're the only team with a three-peat. And they've been talking about this Chiefs team like nobody else in the world had ever done it, and they were going to be the only. And that was pissing me off.
Yep.
So I'm glad they fell. I'm glad they fell hard. All right, I'm going out to do some work. Got to keep the house up.
And that started, honestly, to become a thing for me. I didn't think I would care as much, but it did start to bother me a little bit. And it is a thing of pride, you know. Packers are title town, and we're kind of losing that claim to fame a little bit because it's been a long time since, you know, you could claim title town as anything of relevance. So, you know, having that legacy of 2 3-peats, you know, on top of the fact that we're the only team that's done it, which is cool and something to be proud of. On top of that fact, you got a bunch of people pretending it didn't happen and that the Chiefs are about to make some kind of history. And again, it is slightly different, but to completely disregard it as though we can't even talk about it, as though it's a certainty that, that it's never happened is just silly. It's at least mention it. You know, I mean, if you want to say, you know, the Packers have done 2 3-peats, but this will be the first time anyone's won 3 Super Bowls in the Super Bowl era. Okay, cool. Yeah, got it. But mention it. So, yeah, I agree, man. And it was a toss-up. I didn't really super care. It wasn't like I desperately wanted the Chiefs to win. But I just kind of felt, you know, I'd lean one way or the other. But as it was unfolding, I'm watching it, and I'm just thinking, I didn't consider this scenario, and the more it was happening, the more happy I got, and I'm just sitting there going, what was I thinking? This is way better than what I was imagining. This is glorious. Watching them just get stomped out. And then, you know, everybody's called in with the different reasons why it's a better thing. The 3-peat thing is correct. Just seeing the defeat on the faces of the Chiefs felt really good. And then on top of that, it makes you feel better about our loss, realizing what a powerhouse this team really was. They were kind of a team of destiny, you know what I mean? This was they're just on a unique warpath, and, you know, seeing our offense sputter and struggle, not that it makes me feel any better about losing to the Bears, but it feels better when the team you lost to is the team that won the Super Bowl. So I get all that, and like you said, I mean, it really was a good Super Bowl. I wasn't looking forward to it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed everything. I liked the commercials. Like I said, the halftime show was not my favorite, but it kind of redeemed itself at the end. It was a little bit better. The football game I thought was great. It was boring. Boring. Dude, I could have watched 4 more quarters of the Chiefs getting this freaking bull crap knocked out of them. I would have happily watched 3 more hours of that defensive line taking a baseball bat to Pat Mahomes' stomach. And I don't necessarily hate Pat Mahomes. I think we're all just tired of it. Screw these guys. You know what my other thing is that I loved? I don't know if you saw the video, but Travis Kelce is a known flopper. And so Travis Kelce would get in people's faces and they wouldn't respond. They would just let him do stuff. And it was the greatest. So there's the one play where Travis Kelce just stood there and looked like a D-bag as his quarterback is scrambling for his life. Didn't try to block, didn't try to run and get himself open. At one point, he kind of throws his hands up like, oh, what are you doing? Brr. And then on top of that, there was like 3 instances. He gets in one guy's face, he turns and looks at him, puts his hands behind his back like, I'm not touching you. Because he knows he's trying to bait him into being shoved so he can flop. And then there's 2 other plays where these big, and Travis Kelce is getting in the guy's face, and he's trying to push him, and these are like big defensive linemen. They're not even moving. This guy is like pushing as hard as he can into these guys, and they're not even flinching. It just made Travis Kelce look like such a punk in this game. He did. He just looked like a punk. I'm watching this video, and I'm like, dude, you got to retire. Like, this is a shocking embarrassment, the lack of effort that you put in, the fact that you're trying to bait people into pushing you so you can flop. And you can tell he's doing it because he's not trying to be like hit people as hard as he can and try to knock them down. He's trying to hit them just hard enough to get him to push back. So it's like, you pathetic freaking loser. You're such a... And the fact that they didn't respond, the fact that they just kind of looked at him like, no, I'm not falling for your stupid bull crap. Get your little cheating, Chiefs jersey out of my face. Get over there lined up, and I'm going to smash you in your freaking mouth again. You can stand there like an idiot and watch me destroy your quarterback. That's what you can do. But I'm not putting my hands on you, you little flopping punk. Oh, Just it was beautiful.
Hey, what's up, Ryan Sarlis?
What's up?
Hey, I was just listening to the Packernet After Dark, and first one talking about Kendrick Lamar and the whole Drake beef and all that stuff. So
Sure.
figured I'd call and just go ahead and put this to bed, give you the whole story. Now,
Okay.
this is coming from someone who is not a Drake or Kendrick Lamar fan.
Okay.
Right? Appreciate them both. Not really a big fan to go over the deep end for either one. But here's a rough history. Kendrick Lamar comes out, when he came out. I think he had one good hit. Everyone stopped caring. Drake puts him under his wing, takes him on tour. Everybody starts caring again. Kendrick Lamar thinks Drake. Credits Drake for his career jumping off. Excellent.
Okay.
A lot of artists do. A$AP Rocky. A lot of people credit Drake for putting them on, so to speak, getting them recognition. All right. Time goes by. We forget about Lamar. In my opinion, he's just not that good. He has a very, regional style of rapping that's really only attractive to people from California or the West Coast. When you start getting to most of the country, no one's really playing that style of rap. So he kind of fell off, right?
Yep.
Make a long story short, Drake has more streams than any artist in history.
Yeah, huge.
I mean, statistically wise, Drake is the most successful rapper that ever lived. Even to this day, you can look at it right now. Drake, at this very moment that I'm talking, has more streams than any other artist in history. So Drake's still at the top. The people are still saying that they like Drake. They're still streaming his music. To this day, he's at the top. Well, Drake is ready to redo his deal with this label, right? So he's got all the leverage. Biggest artist. He's about to get this game-changing deal. Well, out of nowhere, everybody starts to diss him. Like the whole rap game is coming for him. At the top of that is Kendrick Lamar. So Drake files a lawsuit against this label saying that it's not a coincidence that right before he hits the negotiating table, all of these other rappers diss him at one time. And not just that, his disses, which in my opinion, he's made a few disses that I think are better than anything Kendrick has made. I mean, every one of them has just been really, really, really good. But Drake's argument in the lawsuit was that they purposefully were conspiring against him, and they didn't play his music. His disses were getting no radio play, but Kendrick's were, right? And on top of that, Kendrick made some unfounded allegations about him being in that song that everyone, that he sung at the Super Bowl. So Drake is suing the label for conspiracy as far as doing this to try to take away his leverage and for profiting off of a song with false accusations about him being a So I say all this to say, just like Beyonce wanted a Grammy for Best Country Album, the whole industry is rigged.
Yeah, it's very weird. And that, I'm glad you filled me in on that. I was not aware of the situation. It was kind of weird to me because I did not know Kendrick Lamar very well at all. Obviously, I know Drake. He's massive. He's made countless hits, and I couldn't name them off the top of my head, but there's got to be a dozen that I'm sure if you played for me, I absolutely have heard them 1,000 times. So it's very odd to me that he became like the odd man out. It's kind of like this. I don't know. It's very weird. It's very weird. But the way you explained it does make a good amount of sense. All right, let's get part 2 here.
3-minute monster got me. But I was saying, just like Beyonce winning a Grammy for the Best Country Album of the Year, the whole thing is rigged. These record executives behind the scenes, they have the votes, right? Hey, you vote for my artist, I vote for your artist. That's what they do. You play my artist's music, we'll put your artist's music on rotation. That's what they do. So Kendrick had the labels and the money behind him to take away Drake's leverage. And that's the only reason why people care. Because if you look at the streams, the sales, the numbers show that people are listening to Drake. No one's really listening to Kendrick Lamar, but the media would have you think that he's just a super great artist. And I agree with you. You said in like 30 years, will people want to reach back and have him perform? I'll say by the end of the year, by the summertime, Kendrick Lamar will be back to being irrelevant.
Well, yeah, I mean, it seems to me that Kendrick Lamar made himself relevant through this whole beef thing, which is, I think, is very common, especially in rap. You make your who is that freaking guy, Machine Gun Kelly or something? I mean, it's a weird freaking guy, but he for a while anyway. I know he kind of had a career before, and I don't know about after. He's probably still doing it, but Like his whole thing was just going after Eminem, and that's how you become relevant. And it's kind of like that's a big thing in rap. If you're trying to make it, if you can diss somebody and actually get them to care enough to respond, then it becomes a big deal and you become somebody. It's really stupid, but it's extremely effective. I mean, there was talk about like the whole Tupac Biggie thing, and obviously that was huge. Not that they necessarily needed it, but that became a massive thing. And I know Biggie even had made the point he didn't want it. He was genuinely scared because these are real gangsters. Not to say that like Eminem doesn't have some connections and whatnot, but is scary stuff, dude. He was scared for his life, and he had, I know, at one point made the comment or allegation that basically it was kind of fake. Like Tupac was kind of, I think he had told him at some point like this was basically like a promotional thing. It maybe became bigger over time, but yeah, it's a silly thing, but you go after the top guy, and in this case, which is kind of unusual. Again, from your perspective, that's not the case, and I'm seeing it from a very small lens. We're talking way more about this than we probably should be, but I thought a lot of people were looking at Kendrick, and he did win all the awards and everything else, so it does seem like he's kind of quote unquote winning the battle, from what I can tell. But it does seem kind of silly that this guy has just decided to make a career off of just crapping all over a guy that made you, and it's like, well, you fell off again. Well, I want you to help me be relevant again. Rather than riding your coattails, I'm just going to come after you and trash you and, make baseless allegations against you. So, yeah, I don't know. The whole thing is very, very weird. Drake, by the way, on the opposite side, I had mentioned people in 30 years or whatever. Drake might be in that conversation. He is big enough that potentially, 30 years from now, he might be remembered. I don't know, but I think there's a good chance that would be the case.
He was the majority of his career. I'll say within 6 months, he'll be forgotten all over again. And Drake will drop an album, and he'll be back to what he's always been. And again, I say this not as a Drake fan, not as a Kendrick Lamar fan, just as a fan of, whatever you want to call hip-hop these days. I don't really think rap is that good anymore, but I'm still a quasi-fan, just somebody that follows the storylines, and that's where it's at. So Kendrick Lamar is more of a, somebody that the label put out in front, that they're telling you to like, hey, like this guy, digest this guy. We're putting money behind him. We're going to play his records. When in real life, everyday people that are driving in their cars or doing whatever they're doing, they're probably streaming a Drake song, 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
So, yeah, all of that, you can put that to rest. I don't know. It just annoys me that so many people are hyping up Kendrick Lamar like he's so great, but it's like, it's all just, they're feeding it to us. Like,
right.
The world and media and government feeds us everything. They want us to go this way, do this thing, care about this thing, but don't look over here. This is just another extension of that. All right, I'm done. Because honestly, I don't care about either one of these guys. Yeah, that's it. All right, bro. See you. Bye.
Yeah, I get it. And, to your point, how much was Kendrick compared to how much was, these record labels or whatever kind of pushing it? Because they're making massive amounts of money off of this beef. So I wouldn't put it past them to have potentially set this up. It was kind of, my wife and I have mentioned before, we watched some really stupid reality TV shows. We watched a lot of the marriage ones, and we're watching Married at First Sight. The latest episode came out, and all this stuff happens, and they try to make it seem organic. Like, for example, when one of my favorite, because it's like when all the drama happens toward the end, like a week left before they have to decide if they want to stay married or not, they all go on like a group vacation. And they all sat down there like, oh, me and so-and-so decided we wanted to play a game, and we ask questions and you write down somebody's name or whatever. They make it seem like it was their idea, but they do this every single season. So it's not a coincidence that they do this every single season. It's the directors who are telling, and it's like when they, hey, I want to go sit down and have a talk with you real quick about something. These are all set up but it's made to seem organic. None of this crap is organic. It's people hanging out, and then the directors come along. And they're like, okay, I want you to tell her you want to have a meeting. Okay, you guys sit around the table. We're going to play this game. Okay, now we're going to do dinner. Why don't we talk about this? And here's the questions I want you to ask, and all this stuff. It's all set up. It's all just a big game to seem organic, when really it's just the directors are constantly pushing and navigating every single little thing. It's probably a good amount of that going on in the music industry as well. And not to say that Kendrick didn't come up with some of this by himself, but these guys have been doing this for a long time. They know how to squeeze some money out of everything. And so I'm sure there was a little bit of poking and prodding and, hey, have you considered trying this out? I bet you it would be successful. Just something to think about. All right, let's take our final break. And we got some beer, cheese, Benny.
All right, beer, cheese, Benny.
Yo.
You know, I had wanted to call in about after the Super Bowl, but it was so late. And then I wanted to do Monday, but I had other things going on. But we're calling right now. Dude, that was embarrassing. An embarrassing Super Bowl. And you know what, man? It's funny how the refs all of a sudden wanted to officiate a game the way it should have been. Now, I will say that first offensive pass interference, that was bullcrap. And I was sitting there thinking, oh, here we go again. But they kind of cleaned it up. And there were some other iffy ones, but it wasn't horrible. I will say that. Mm-hmm. And now you're seeing the Chiefs lose because, they can't actually win unless everything goes their way.
Imagine
their
that.
O-line sucked. Our O-line was so much better against the Eagles. In our defense, we had the best postseason performance against that Eagles offense, which gives me hope for the future, to be honest with you. It gives me hope. And if we just keep building, we'll get stronger. I think offense is what we need to be strong.
You know, it is funny that you mentioned that. It's weird, I think, how much, I don't know how to explain it, but there seem to be things where we're all watching something together, let's say as Packer fans. We're all watching something, and we all seem to have a very similar reaction. Sometimes it's obvious why we would have that reaction. You know, if somebody plays well, we all think, hey, that guy played well. It is interesting to me that we all watched this game where the Philadelphia Eagles were a significantly better team, better product than what the Packers put on the field. There's no doubt. I mean, better than all the teams. There's better than all the other 31. But we all watched it. We all sat back and went, I kind of feel good about our team. It's very weird. I mean, part of it is, well, that's the team that knocked us out, so maybe we're not as bad as I thought. I'm a little more iffy on that than most people, but there's some truth to that for sure. But I think for a lot of us, we looked at it and it's like, I can see a path now. It's almost like they created a vision for us, and now we look at it, we look at them and go, that's how you do it, that's how you win. And then you look out in the field, and it's like Myles Garrett's like, hey, I need a home, and Max Crosby's like, well, I'm kind of looking for a home where, you know, we can, you know, build something, and people in the locker room want to win, and I can win a Super Bowl championship. And Ian Rappaport comes out and is like, yeah, maybe he wants to go somewhere where he has a bunch of friends, which only connects to Green Bay. And Trey Hendrickson is like, yeah, I don't know if this is going to work out, dog. I might need a new home. And so it's like, oh, okay, so yeah, we get those guys. And then in the draft, maybe we get another guy, like either interior, another pass rusher or whatever, and we could possibly get a corner and a number one receiver. It's not impossible with the amount of guys that in the second and third rounds, these people would still exist. I mean, I can't 100% speak for you. I can't even 100% speak for myself. It's just like we all have the same gut reaction to something that's not really, to me, intuitive. So many people watched that Super Bowl and said, number one, that was awesome, right? We all agreed that was great. And then number two, we kind of feel good about stuff. And it's weird to feel so good about it because you would think, knowing myself, knowing a lot of Packer fans, you look at that and go, dude, we suck. We're never going to be able to compete with the Eagles. I didn't see a lot of that. I saw a lot of, oh, okay, yeah, we just got to go psycho for defensive line and beat the living crap out of quarterbacks, and I think we're going to be okay. I think we're going to be okay. Maybe get a number one wide receiver on top of that if you can. Try your best, see what you can do. I'm feeling good. It's just, I don't know, it's a weird, I've just heard a lot of people say that, and it was the feeling I had as well. It wasn't like a conscious thing, it's more subconscious. Like, I don't know why, but I feel good about our team, and I'm just hearing more and more people with that similar sentiment. I think that's kind of funny.
Because I think our defense, the way it is now, if they can do what they did, then it's fine. Obviously, you want to get better. You want to be stronger and faster and everything, but the offense lost us that postseason, man. So, I have a lot of hope that Goody's going to make the right moves. And some of them we might not like. We might not see them through, but they'll end up being good. And I still honestly think all the Cooper DeJean talk, I was pissed, man. When he got the picture, I'm like, well, Packers could have had him.
Yeah.
And, still annoying, but, and people are going to talk about Jordan Morgan. You picked Jordan Morgan. It's like, okay, well, he hasn't played. Injuries are part of the game. Okay, Goody couldn't predict that he was going to get injured. Okay, if he could, then he wouldn't have drafted him. But anyways, we got to see how he's going to be. He could end up being an amazing freaking offensive lineman, dude. Like Hall of Famer. We don't know.
Yeah, right, exactly. So give him a chance.
Let this play out. But, yeah, man, looking forward to the draft. Again, I'm trying to go. I want to go. I would have to drive or fly up from South Carolina here. And I just don't know with everything going on if I'll be able to do it. I do need to save vacation time because I got my brand new kid coming in August.
Atta boy. It's funny. This is going to sound terrible, and I'm really sorry, Beer Cheese Benny, but I don't know what my problem is right now. I've got this weird thing. I like to bounce around, watch different things. Some Packer stuff, some of this, some of that. I have been on an absolute psychotic binge fest watching police videos on YouTube. Now, it started off with certain videos where basically the only thing that happens is cops end up shooting people. I don't know why that became a thing, but that was a thing. And then that morphed into just like that's like a specific genre. And then that kind of morphed into like, well, they don't always have to get shot. Sometimes like just crazy stuff happens. DUI, people start going crazy, whatever. I just have those things on loop 24/7. And the weird thing is a lot of these are in Wisconsin. I don't know if Wisconsin has like some weird thing where it's easier to access the videos, or if I just locked into something weird where it's only showing me a lot of Wisconsin stuff. Midwest, some Illinois or whatever. And some of them are specifically, like it says Midwest something or another is one of them. But anyways, I'm watching one of these, and I swear to you, first of all, it was a DUI. The guy obviously was going nuts. His voice sounded like you so much. I'm like, bro, is that Beer Cheese? Like, because this from like a year ago, Beer Cheese got himself in trouble or something. I hopefully it's endearing to you that I thought of you like yesterday when I was watching this and not insulting, but I watched it and his voice sounded exactly like you, and I was just like, bro, I wonder, because it was in, well, you're not in Wisconsin, but I just thought maybe that's Beer Cheese. I don't know. Oh, I laugh at things sometimes. Sorry, Beer Cheese.
Hey Ryan, it's Drew from Green Bay, and you were talking about your top 50 and about the cornerbacks you all had in there and everything. And
yeah,
I don't know if you put him in your top 50, but Darian Porter is kind of right on the edge, so he's a guy you can look into. But he ran a 4.38 40 at the Senior Bowl.
Okay.
And so he's a little weird because he's already over 24 years old.
It's rough.
I think he was like a 50-year senior. And his height is 6'4", 200 pounds, so he's a little...
This is a classic Packers guy, right? You got your Jair, assuming he doesn't leave, which he might, but you've got like that, but what have the Packers been trying to do forever? They want their Richard Sherman. They tried Kevin King. He wasn't Richard Sherman. They tried Eric Stokes. He's not Richard Sherman. 6'4", runs in the 4.3s. The Packers are not going to stop until they get a Richard Sherman. It's just not going to happen. Sorry, something was flying in my face and I smacked my microphone. But he's actually sitting at 73 overall, so he's pretty comfortably in the top 100. So I will definitely get to him soon enough.
Out of your normal, he's almost too tall,
Sure.
Because it's hard for those tall guys to
Not
have
a lot of
good hits
agility.
and all that.
Yeah.
I think his hips are okay. They're not, like, you can't put him on a slot receiver or anything. He'll get cooked, but he would strictly be an outside cornerback. But, you know, with that kind of, maybe you could move him to safety if you had to or something, but he played cornerback in college, so that's what you'd be drafting him for. And I just think, like, he could help us a lot. You know, he's, when you have a tall, speedy guy, there's just a lot of things with, like, long arms. He's a punt block specialist, a field goal kick block specialist. He's a gunner. That he had a number of interceptions where he turns around perfectly and jumps out in the air, and as he's falling back, he can pluck the ball out of the air. You know, he takes on those
pluck.
like tall, big A.J. Brown type receivers. I know A.J. Brown's usually in the slot, but you know what I mean? Like those tough Mike Evans maybe would be a better example. We don't really have a cornerback that can take those guys on. You could have him take on tight ends. He can be physical. He can, so he has missed some tackles, I believe, but I think that can get cleaned up with time. So, look into Darian Porter from Iowa State. I don't know, I really like him. And, I have him as like a fringe top 50 guy, I think. So, all right, have a good one.
We'll just do the quick and dirty on PFF, and we'll do a deeper one, obviously, as we go. Really not a lot of time playing in college, which is weird. He's 24, but he's played 694 snaps in 4 seasons. That's like 1 season worth. That's literally 1 season. But anyways, his grades were 60, 60, 70, and 79. But that kind of doesn't even matter because he played 1 snap in 2020. 2021 he didn't play. We can dig into that. I'm sure there's injuries and whatnot, and that's the reason for it. Only played 150 snaps in 2022, 115 in 2023. If these are all injuries, by the way, this is just nothing but flags. I don't know why he didn't play. Then his first quote-unquote full season, he played 425 snaps. Played weeks 1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and then the championship game. So, yeah, I don't know what's going on with this guy. I'm thinking he's an older guy with a lot of injuries. Let me just look at that real quick. First of all, 79 PFF grade. Really was not good down the stretch. Week 8, and again, probably due to injuries because week 8 was 81 grade. Then he was gone week 9, came back week 10, and it was 60, 60, 60, 60, 50, 40 is how that kind of ended down the stretch. Let me just look real quick at the injury history, see if I can find something. Honestly, I don't think it's injury as much as he just wasn't a starter, because if I look at, first of all, he was a wide receiver, is worth noting. Doesn't look like he really played as a wide receiver at Iowa State, but he was on the field on offense doing what I don't exactly know. But he did play quite a bit of special teams. He played 970 snaps. He was on the field in 2020, so he did not miss the season. He played 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2020, all of the seasons, and he played on special teams. So maybe it wasn't injury as much as he just was not a starter. But it sounds like he started off as a wide receiver. They tried to transition him to cornerback, and they finally got him into kind of a starter role in 2024. I do think there were a couple injuries, but maybe nothing major that held him out as much as so. Here would be my biggest issue. And again, I don't know exactly what the situation is with Porter. I'll try to dig a little deeper when we have some more time. But if he is a 24-year-old project, that's rough. It really is. So that's a tough selling point. But we shall see. We shall see. At 6'4", 200-pound corner that runs in the 4.3s is going to garner some attention, and for good reason.
Hey Ryan, Beer Cheese Benny here.
Yo.
You know what? I just wanted to say how much I love your podcast, man.
Thanks, dog.
It's just so awesome, dude. One, you're the only Packers podcast that I know that does, maybe not the only podcast I listen to overall that does the phone call thing, but certainly the only podcast that does Packers podcast that has, call-in opportunities. And I just want to say thank you for listening to my ramblings. And to any of the listeners who are annoyed with me, I'm sorry. But also, I want to shout out freaking everybody that calls in, man.
For sure.
Like, I always just look forward to After Dark just because I love hearing everybody else, like, what their thoughts are, and then hearing you respond to it. And I love when you respond to me. And it's just a great platform. And you know what, dude? I love Clayton and the Packers Total Access. Man, they do a great job of breaking it down. But I was going to ask you, how come you never do episodes with Clayton? Because I feel like that would be awesome, man. Like, you guys should totally, do that. And I don't know if, like, the Packernet podcast is just kind of like a way for him to post, like, his stuff, and you don't, like, and you don't really talk to him that much or what. But, man, I think you guys should really get together and, like, do some episodes throughout the season or whatever, I think that would be great because, I love both you guys. But anyways, yeah, that's all I want to say. And I hope everybody has a great freaking day.
I appreciate it, dude. Yeah, I mean, we've definitely done stuff in the past, YouTube primarily, but I think, I mean, we're just very different styles of doing things. Clayton's doing a good job over there with his thing, but I mean, he's doing like 3-hour megathons on YouTube with a group of people. Not that I haven't done that. And it kind of just drifted. It was one of those things where it's like he throws out a link every day. Feel free to jump on, and I jumped on a couple of them. It honestly hasn't even occurred to me, and I would feel like I would need to ask permission at this point, even though I know it's an open invitation. But just because it's been such a long time, I would feel weird just jumping on. But yeah, I mean, it's just a very different kind of thing. I haven't even really considered doing it for a while, and I'm sure Clayton would be willing to come over on my thing. But yeah, I mean, look, my thing has always been, it's just me ranting about bullcrap, right? That's just my thing. And Clayton has a very different way of doing things. We all have our strengths, and we play to them. And I know I've heard a lot of people talk about this for a long time, like, you should have so-and-so on your show, and you should have this guy on your show. And I've done it before. I don't usually like the way it turns out. Other people have said it goes well. It's probably a very enjoyable thing, to be honest. But I don't know. This is what I do. On my schedule, when I want to, when I can, I come down here. I don't have to coordinate times. I don't have to do this and do that. I simply push record. I start talking, and that's it. But and again, it's the way Clayton does the breakdowns and whatnot. I think it's cool that we have a lot of different bases covered and do things from different perspectives and in different ways. And I think it's cool to be able to give people, different ways of viewing things and different kind of breakdowns on different subjects. So don't mess with a good thing, you know what I mean? But no, I mean, Clayton and I keep in touch. A lot of it is non-football related, but we talk pretty regularly. We haven't collaborated in quite some time, which, I mean, I would be happy to do it. I haven't really thought about it, and it's just, I'm gonna sound super lazy. It's just work. It sounds stupid and lazy, but I got 2 podcasts every day that I'm trying to do on top of having a family. It's just tough coordinating with people and getting the schedules worked out, and then having to figure out what to do. And like, if I had them on mine, I'd have to come up with questions and what are we going to talk about and trying to coordinate and what time works for you. And nah, not saying never. I'm just saying it's not a priority, I don't think, for either of us, but definitely happy with the way things are going. I hope that he's happy with the way things are going, and he's doing great over there on YouTube. I just realized recently, I was just checking him out, looking at it. First of all, so I was checking out the stream on YouTube. He had 90 concurrent viewers, which is really actually a lot. just on YouTube. It's significantly higher on X, which he's also blowing up on. I've seen some of his numbers over there. It's insane. He's doing a great job with that, which is great because X is becoming a really good platform for, content and getting paid to do content and everything else. But then on top of that is his subscriber count on YouTube. So he's grinding, man. He's working real hard. He's grinding, and super happy for him because he's a hard-working dude. And he's doing, I can see him kind of with that same passion and energy that I had when I first started, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it's like, I'm doing this every day and that's it. And it's just dogged determination and I'm not going to stop. And, just knowing that I'm just going to put my head down and work. And one of these days I'm going to look up and I'm going to be there. But for now, I don't really care. I'm not worried about it. I just got my head down and I'm working. And it feels like that's the vibe I'm getting. And I think it's correct. He's going to get there. So he's already kind of there, but I'm talking big time, 20,000 subscribers, 50,000, 100,000, guys like Basarski. I remember when he was 3, 4, 5,000. Now, I don't know what he's at now. I know it was at 20,000. He could be at 50,000 or something right now for all I know. Same with Grossi, right? It becomes exponential growth on things like YouTube and stuff. I got out of that rat race a little bit. I like YouTube. It's just a whole other thing. But I always regret not doing it when I'm not doing it because I know how that works. I know how the growth works. And, when you're small and you're growing at 3%, it sucks. When you're at 50,000 and you go at 3%, that's a lot of new subscribers. When you have 300,000, like, Grossi has or however many he has, and you're still growing at 3%, which is about what people tend to grow at, now we're talking stupid numbers. You're adding 10,000 new subscribers in a month or whatever it was. I don't even remember exactly what the time frame was, or a week. But that's the thing. I know we're off on another subject here, but that's the thing. When you want to do something, just go at it 100,000 miles an hour and don't let anything discourage you. Just keep frickin' doing it. And that's the biggest problem I always had is I try it and be like, well, I didn't get a response, and so I quit. Podcast was the only time I said, I don't care. I'm doing this every single day, and I don't care if nobody listens. I don't care if I make no money. I wasn't even really thinking about money. I didn't really realize there was a lot in it until I was doing it for a while. But just freaking grind, man. If you enjoy it, just do it and never stop doing it, and then you're there. Anyways, I am gonna get out of here. I'm getting tired as fire. That's what I always tell I've been saying that to my kids for years. Makes no sense, but that's every time I tell my kids I'm tired, they know. Tired as fire. I'm like, yep, But I'm getting out of here. I'm going to bed. I'm lying. I'm gonna stop and then go back to Civ. And then my wife's gonna tell me I have to come upstairs, and then I'll be like, all right, and then I have to go to bed. You guys have a good rest of your night. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.